your TV, and the TV is going to try and help you out. It's going to, depending on who you are, it's going to recommend things. It's going to recommend things based on what you watched last week and liked and actually finished. It may recommend the next time you turn on and say, hey, I noticed you watched Heroes the week before. And hey, season 1's available on Netflix, and by the way, the next episode's on in 3 hours if you want to watch it. It may pull your Facebook feed and all your friends and tell you what your friends watched last week, what they like, what they're recommending to you. It may pull in Twitter feeds and check what's happening out in the world on news, what's going on in Egypt. You want to see a live feed of what's happening at your square? Boom, it's right there, if that's what you're interested in. So where things are going to go, instead of just blindly sending 1,000 channels your way, it's going to start to learn from you a little bit and try and recommend things based on what you're interested in. That's really the next step of disruption. There's a lot of startups, both in Southern California, Northern California, and New York, all working on little pieces of it. And hopefully within a year or two, you're going to see the fruits of that labor start to pop up. But we first had to get the TVs onto the internet on stage 1. So that's where things are going. So the last comment I'll make, and this goes back to who Vizio is and one of the tricks that we've been able to pull off. I mentioned what our overhead was, right? Very, very low overhead as a company, very, very efficient. And so as Chief Technology Officer, one of the key things that we had to figure out in the product department was, how do you innovate in a company with that kind of overhead? Right? It's not like I have a team of 500 engineers just banging away at the next problem. So one of the things that we have done is have figured out how to create what we call virtual teams across multiple companies to get products done. Right? Turns out chipset companies and factories and software companies and things that are all these components on all these products, they actually have really good engineers that are frustrated. And if you can get them into a virtual team and sell these technology companies on the vision that you're trying to get to market, you can create a virtual team. So often I find myself leading a team, and 80% of the team aren't Vizio employees. They're employees from other companies that are all trying to do the same thing, because the chipset company knows that if the product's successful, they're going to sell millions of chips. Right? So if I ask them for some help on engineering and software, they'll actually apply it. Same thing with the factory, same thing with software. Right? And so it's a little chaotic, and it's a little crazy, but that's how we leverage our business model, and we leverage our overhead to get to a point where we can sell you the technologies at such a low rate and still have some of the best products in the world. So that was the trick, how to build some of the latest technologies and beat Samsung, Sony, LG, all these guys to the market with the latest technologies when we have a team of engineers of about 6 people. Okay? Any questions? I want to open up. That's all I had to say. Hopefully else. Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for the you mentioned that Vizio is dealing with tablets. You foresee TV on tablets.
Yeah, there's actually one announced already by a company called LG. They have a 3D tablet. Their 3D tablet requires glasses. One of the technologies you're going to see is glassless 3D, where you don't wear glasses. They call it naked eye 3D. It's terrible. It works on small screen sizes right now. And so right now you'll see the Nintendo 3DS coming out. That's naked eye 3D. That's coming out in a few months. You'll see some cell phones come out with it. And when they can get the technology to work on a 10-inch scale, I think you're going to see more tablets come out with it. The current one that's on the market, you have to actually wear glasses to work. I think wearing glasses to the tablet's a little, probably not a mainstream product. There's one announced, and my guess is you'll see a few more in the second half. And then in 2012, you'll probably see at least 5 or 7 on the market. Yes?
Yeah, thank you.
You're welcome.
What speed, you mentioned that Wi-Fi is available what speed would you need to have for quick wireless in order to operate Vizio TV in the 3D?
It turns out that speed is less important than range for most things on a TV. And the reason is when you're streaming content from an online source like Netflix, let's say, it's very highly compressed. And it turns out the limiting factor is not your home network, it's actually the bandwidth that you're buying from Verizon, your DSL, your cable. Netflix streams bit rates anywhere from 600K kilobits per second up to about 6 megabits per second. So an average cable connection, average DSL is more than enough. The challenge is to make sure that your TV, wherever it's placed in the house, can actually receive that connection if it's wireless. So one of the benefits is because TVs are rather large, we can place antennas up in the chassis at very kind of disparate places. That gives us very good diversity across the antennas. So you actually get very good range. But what you'll notice is most people have a router, the wireless router somewhere in the house. TVs are typically on a wall, and half the time that wall is one of the farthest walls in the house, right? It's at the edge of the house. So range is actually more important than bandwidth. But if you have anywhere from 2 megs to 5 meg connection, you can stream high def videos.
So when you say range, are you referring also to distance, for example, the distance from the, I'm thinking of something that's completely, wireless, in other words, not Wi-Fi within the home, but actually
mobile.
A tower
Mobile.
coming in.
Yeah. So the mobile.
Deliver all the programming.
Yeah. So most mobile devices are not high-def screens. They're lower resolution screens because they're so small, right? And so you can get away with streaming. AT&T actually requires a 32 kilobit stream.
No, I'm talking about your TV though.
Oh, well, our TV isn't mobile. So our TV doesn't log onto the mobile network, it logs onto your Wi-Fi network.
Right, I understand that, but what I'm saying is that if you had in your home a wireless, completely wireless connection, and it's coming from a cell tower, from a local access point.
Yeah, okay.
What would that speed and range?
It would need to be the same as what a cable and DSL would be. So it would need to be. Oh yeah. Yeah. So it turns out 3D actually doesn't take any more bandwidth than 2D. And the reason is what they do is they have the resolution of each eye and they interlace it into a single image and then send it. So when it comes out, it's actually no larger file or no larger bandwidth than 2D.
So I have just one last question.
Sure.
So when one gets laser surgery so that they don't have to wear reading glasses, one eye is different than the other. How does that affect the?
It can cause headaches, especially in shutter glass surgery. It turns out that in polarizer, one of the benefits of the second technology, the one that we're deploying,
technology.
Yeah, in the shutter glass, because it's always turning one eye off at a time, it's forcing both eyes to register at any single time, right, at a certain distance. In passive, both eyes are seeing all the time, like your normal vision. It's not shutting one off 240 times a second. And so a lot of those conditions, like where you have nearsighted and farsighted on purpose because they set it that way, doesn't really get impacted with passive. Also, there's a lot less flicker. So because of this, if you have any lighting like this, very bright lighting or fluorescent lighting on an active polarizer, actually the rest of the room flickers because fluorescent lights actually flicker at about a few hundred kilohertz per second as well. And so it causes massive headaches. Passive, not so bad. Passive's a lot easier.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you explain a little more in terms of the innovation that happens? You mentioned conversions and conversions, and a little more conversions. But then the innovation that's happening at Vizio. So how do you guys decide whose innovation to go first?
So what we typically do is when we set a roadmap, and so Vizio takes the lead in several areas. One is obviously sales and marketing. All the things that we have to do for our channel, customer support. We have award-winning customer support and all that. And in the product area, we take lead on the vision, what needs to get executed. And we actually will outsource to certain things like our user interface design. We do some of that in-house. We do some of the software in-house, and we do some of the hardware in-house. So we have leaders for all those different areas. But what we don't do is have a team underneath that. So engineers from chipset companies and others kind of become part of their teams. And I have a leader on hardware, I have a leader on software, I have a leader on user experience. We've all done it before, but I don't give them 50, 60 headcount. They get to bring in virtual teams from other areas. And then we have a kickoff meeting. I actually was at one this morning, actually all day. It started at 8 a.m. and finished at about 6:30. I drove straight here. And we had 4 companies in a room, and all we did was sit and talk about the product line that's coming in 2012, feature set, where we're headed, why, what channels it's going to map to, how we're going to architect the hardware, how we're going to architect the software. So one of the things we've learned is you have to make sure that everyone's on the same page at the start. Otherwise, it goes completely backwards if you go from there. So we do a lot of meetings jointly. That initial meeting is going to continue actually tomorrow. And then in 2 weeks I go to Asia. We're going to have another meeting in Asia and go through with a few other providers technology providers. It's chaotic, right? It's chaotic by design in some ways. But the other thing that's interesting is a typical television design cycle is about 12 to 18 months. So kind of the complex TVs, if you went into a normal seed company, it would take them somewhere between 15 and 18 months. A simple product by 12 to 14 months. We can spit a design out in 5 months because we can take best-of-breed components, put them together very quickly, leverage what we've done before, and we can make decisions much faster. But the process is a little messy. Yeah, you're welcome. Yes?
What's really interesting about the organizational capability, it's a $3 billion company, and most companies of that size have 500 to 1,500 people. Or more. Is it the business model that makes you move to market, or is it how you hire and you drive the people to move that quickly? And so Samsung and Sony and all these other companies that are obviously taking notes and seeing your progress much quicker, don't they have the same capabilities, and can't they kind of instill that same thing?
It's tough. We hire some people from Sony. And what's interesting is once you have 55, 60,000 employees, it's kind of hard to fire 50, 59,500. Just you can't go that far backwards, right? Initially, right? So they do business very differently. Also, I'd say culturally, very, very different. In those companies, and we have a lot of respect for those companies, by the way. Decision authority is very centralized. Right? Every decision that Howard Stringer's team makes at Sony goes all the way back to Japan. Right? This is something that even comes back 3 months later, and it's why. So it's culturally very difficult to pull off. If you don't start a company that way, I don't think you can take a large company and turn it into a small nimble company. It just doesn't work. I used to work at Cisco Systems. They had 84,000 employees. Didn't move quick. So back to the first part. Some of it is the way we need to set up the company. The other thing is when we talk internally a lot. William will come to me at a staff meeting on Monday and tell me, don't forget you've got 50 employees, but you're really responsible for 15,000. Right? Because we feel ownership over the employees of the other companies, our partners. We feel responsible for their well-being. We feel responsible for their success. Because if Vizio fails, financially they're taking a lot of risk as well. Right? Both from people, resource, and flat-out investment. So, it's a blurry line between us and some of our partners, and that's made us very strong, but it's also made us very nimble. So it's by design. I don't think we can do something.
Thank you all so much, Matt.